Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. Let's make a start with Radha Madhav. Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Jai Gopi Janavallabha, Jayo Giravardhari, Jai Gopi Janavallabha, Jayo Giravardhari, Shodhanandana Vraj Jana Ranjana, Shodhanandana Vraj Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Om Jnantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Krishna Setam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namastute Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranmami Haripriya Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kirpa Sindhabhevicha Patitana Pavanibhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasthaya Bhutale Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Parcharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Dishatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasdi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Roti Vachalam Pangum Lagyate Grim Yat Kirpatam Mandashi Gurundi Dharanam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishram Hari Om Tassat Narayam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Sasvit Vyasam Tato Jamaduriyat Nasta Preshavaptureshu Nityam Bhagavad-Sevayā Bhagavati Utamshnake Bhaktir Bhavati Neshtaki. Right, Hare Krishna. So let's carry on with Kunti Mata's wonderful prayers. Thank you all for joining, and we shall share on Shloka 35. So let's continue. So Shloka 35, what we said so far, I could find it now. Okay, anyway, let's continue. So, Bhave smin klishya mananam avidyakam karmabi shravan smara narahani karishyan iti kechana. So, Bhave in the material creation, as mean this klishya mananam of those who are suffering from avidya, in essence, kama, desire, karma be by execution of fruitic work, shravan, hearing, smaran, remembering, arhani, worshipping, Krishna, may perform iti, thus kechan, others. And yet others say that you appeared for the sake. So we're still talking about, Kunti Mata is talking about the appearance of Krishna. And yet others say that you appeared for the sake of rejuvenating the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned soul suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. So basically we talk about the 9 types of service. In the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Lord asserts that He appears in every millennium just to re-establish the way of religion. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. No one can manufacture a new path of religion. But people do. But the real is what the Lord has suggested, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and to surrender service unto Him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of the living being is to render service to the Lord. The Lord is great and living beings are subordinate to Him. So basically we are parts. This is called parts and parcel of the Lord. And just like our arms, our legs, our tongue, eyes, I guess they are all parts and parcels of our body, and their task is to serve us, right? If our arms or legs don't serve us, then what good would they be? So it's their duty on demand when we need to speak, when we need to eat, and when we need to lift something with our arms or make some gestures like that. When we need to walk, run, our legs do their duty. So like that, we are parts and parcels of the Lord, and it is our duty to serve the Lord, because that's what we are here for. This is what we are manufactured or made for. Just like the body, it comes along with us. Similarly, we are parts of God. God is there eternally, we are there eternally with Him as one of His entities. In the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, so the factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and to surrender service unto Him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of a living being is to render service to the Lord. The Lord is great and the living beings are subordinate to Him. Therefore, the duty of the living being is just to serve Him only. Unfortunately, the illusions living beings, out of misunderstanding only, become servants of the senses. So at least we know we are servants, but we're servants of the wrong thing. We will serve something because that's our constitutional position, but we're serving the wrong thing by material desire. This desire is called avidya or nescience, and out of such a desire, the living being makes different plans for material enjoyment centered about a perverted sex life. He therefore becomes entangled in the chain of birth and death by transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Unless therefore one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, one cannot get free from the threefold miseries of material life. That is the law of nature. The Lord, however, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more powerful, more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect, appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service comprised of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto him. Adoption of all the above mentioned items or any one of them can help a conditioned soul get out of the tangle of nescience and thus become liberated from all the material sufferings created by the living being, illusioned by the external energy. This particular type of mercy is bestowed upon the living being by the Lord in the form of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we're given these 9 types of services as recommended by Prahlad Maharaj, and we follow them, we can purify our life. So see what we have here, 135. So Krishna appears for renovation of devotional service. Through hearing, remembering, and worshipping, the process is very effective. But how much advantage do we take? How effectively do we do it? The process is effective, but how effective are we? Are we 100%, 50%, 25% effective? Material life is continuous suffering. 3 types of suffering: from the mind and body, by the living entities, and by natural calamities. Even if the weather is perfect, our body and mind are in good condition and no one is bothering us. So even if we don't have these 3 things, that the weather is perfect, body and mind are in good condition, and no one is bothering us right now, 3 causes of suffering are still there. Root cause is ignorance. So they might not be bothering us for a little bit, but they are there, and any of them can bother us at any time. Causes of suffering in the material world: ignorance, which leads to material desires, which leads to material activity, which leads one to suffer. So it's ignorance, really, which leads to material activity, which leads one to suffer. Remedy, Srila Prabhupada suggests, remedy is hearing. It removes ignorance. By hearing Bhagavatam, ignorance is eradicated. Ignorance in the form of spiritual wisdom and process of remembering purify our material desires. When we remember to engage in Krishna's service, we begin to worship the Supreme Lord, and thus all material activities stop. So when we're not doing things for our own purpose, we're doing for Krishna, then it's a different scenario. Our sinful activities stop, and we're not accumulating karma when we are doing things for the Lord. Just like Arjun was fighting for Krishna, there was no karma on him. And similarly, when we put Krishna in the center of all our activities, then things change. The 3 types of misery is still there. There's no promise that the miseries will not be there, but we surrender to the Lord and to His will, and our consciousness is different how we deal with these miseries. Sharvanti gayanti grinanti abhikshanancha samaranti nadanti tevhitam janah ta eva pashyanti achirena tabakam bhava pravaho parvam padam bhujam. Shrinvanti, hear, gayanti, chant, gananti, take, abhikshanacha, continuously, samaranti, remember, nantanti, take pleasure, tav, yo, hitam, activities, janha, people in general, they, eva, certainly, pashyanti, can see, achirena, very soon, tavakam, yo, bhavaha, the current of rebirth, uparamam, cessation, pad, abhujam, lotus feet. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. So Kunti Mata is talking about change of vision now. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna cannot be seen by our present conditional vision. In order to see him, one has to change his present vision by developing a different condition of life, full of spontaneous love of God, where Sri Krishna was personally present on the face of the globe. Not everyone could see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Materialists like Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal were highly qualified personalities of acquisition of material assets. But they were unable to appreciate the presence of the Lord. Therefore, even though the Lord may be present for our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. So, mentioned here, these people who were killed by Krishna or by God, for example, Shishupal, he was killed by God, and God's killing and God saving is all in the same platform. So Shishupal, when he was killed, he became one with the Lord. And in Mahabharata, because actually the show that he enters the body of Krishna when Krishna kills him, he enters the body of Krishna. Now in the battle of Kurukshetra, when they were fighting, the soldiers, the enemy's soldiers, because they saw Krishna on the battlefield, and Krishna wasn't fighting; he was just his chariot driver. And when they were killed by Arjun, and they saw Krishna, and they were actually admired Krishna's beauty at the time of death, and they saw Krishna time of death, they actually got better. They went to Vaikuntha just for doing that, although they were his enemies. So just getting Krishna's darshan, even the enemies get a good position. And what to say about devotees? But because Shishupal could not, or these other people, Jarasandha, they could not recognize Krishna, and they could not appreciate Krishna, so that they didn't get Vaikuntha. But they were unable to appreciate the presence of the Lord. Therefore, even though the Lord may be present for our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. This necessary qualification is developed by the process of devotional service only, beginning with hearing about the Lord from the right sources. The Bhagavad-Gita is one of the popular literatures which are generally heard, chanted, repeated, etc. But the people in general. So Bhagavad-Gita is for general masses, but in spite of hearing, such hearing, etc., sometimes it is experienced that the performer of such devotional service does not see the Lord face to face. The reason is that the first item, Shravan, is very important. If hearing is from the right sources, it acts very quickly. Generally, people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications. But because they do not follow the principles of devotional service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. Sometimes the texts are interpreted fashionably to suit their own purposes. Therefore, first one should select a competent and bona fide speaker and then hear from him. When the hearing process is perfect and complete, the other processes become automatically perfect in their own way. There are different transcendental activities of the Lord, and each and every one of them is competent to bestow the desired result, provided the hearing process is perfect. In the Bhagavatam, the activities of the Lord begin from his dealings with the Pandavas. There are many other pastimes of the Lord in connection with his dealings with the Asuras and others. And in the 10th canto, the sublime dealings with his conjugal associates, the gopis, as well as with his married wives at Dwarka are mentioned. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference in the transcendental nature of each, and every dealing of the Lord. But sometimes people in an unauthorized hearing process take more interest in hearing about his dealings with the gopis. Such an inclination indicates the lusty feelings of the hearer. So a bona fide speaker of the dealings of the Lord never indulges in such hearings. One must hear about the Lord from the very beginning, as in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or any of the scriptures, and that will help the hearer attain perfection by progressive development. One should not therefore consider that his dealings with the Pandavas are less important than his dealings with the gopis. We must always remember that the Lord is always transcendental to all mundane attachment. In all the above mentioned dealings of the Lord, he is the hero in all circumstances, and hearing about him or about his devotees or combatants is conducive to spiritual life. It is said that the Vedas and the Purana, etc., are all made to revive our lost relation with him. Hearing of all these scriptures is essential. So that's 36. And what we have here, Prabhupada's, we need to become lovers of Krishna. It's practical and achievable. It starts with hearing about the Lord from the right source. This is the first principle. The consciousness and attention behind is important. Just like the prasadam is not equal, it depends on the consciousness of the cook. So this is why it's important that the devotee, we eat from a devotee's hands rather than somebody who's got very materialistic consciousness. That's why it's also not recommended that we eat, although we do, that we don't eat from outside, from restaurants, because they are cooked, food is cooked, but you don't know what kind of mentality the person has who did the cooking. So although there are 9 processes of devotional service, the basis of each one of them is hearing. So hearing must be perfect, because it all starts with hearing. That's the first thing. Our reading should be systematic, like we are doing. We're going in a system. Start with Srila Prabhupada's small books, then Bhagavad-Gita, then Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and then Chaitanya Charitamrita. Here Prabhupada's lectures. So in that way as well, you start from the bottom and get more complicated. Whatever we hear, we must contemplate on it, meditate, smaranam. So smaranam is the third stage. So first we hear the subject matter of meditation. If we don't know the subject matter, then what are we going to meditate on? So smaranam. So hearing and kirtanam, sharanam kirtanam. So somebody's spoken, we've heard, and then we have to meditate on what we heard. But if you haven't understood it, then what are we going to meditate on? Most of us just survive in our Krishna consciousness. We must thrive, not just survive, by following the process given by Srila Prabhupada. So Kunti has given us many reasons for Krishna's appearance. To glorify Yudhishthira Maharaj and the dynasty of Yadu, he's appearing because of Lord Brahma's praise, re-establishing religious principles. So when Krishna comes, he comes for so many reasons. To renovate the process of devotional service, now as we've just discussed, and ultimately the main reason he appears for his pleasure, because he likes doing his pastimes, so he comes for his pleasure, and to give pleasure to the devotees as well. He likes to give pleasure to his devotees. So many reasons why Krishna appears. And then we go on to 37. Apya adyanastvam svakriti prabho jihasasi svitsurdo nijubinaha yesham nachanyad bhavata padam bhujat prayanam rajasu yojitam ahasam. Api, if adya, today, na astvam, you swakrita, self-executed ihita or duties, Prabhu, O my Lord, jihasasi, giving up, sweet, possibly surdha, intimate friends, anujivanha, living at the mercy of, yesham, of whom, na, no, cha, and anyat, anyone else, pavatha, yo, pad, ambujat, from the lotus feet, prayanam, dependent, rajsu, unto the kings, yujita, engaged in, amhamsam, enmity. So 37, now Kunti Mata is appealing for more association, dependence and attachment. So now she asking for some other things. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today? Though we are completely dependent on your mercy and had no one else to protect us. Now when all the kings are at enmity with us. So she's giving reasons why Krishna should not leave. The Pandavas are most fortunate because with all good luck, they were entirely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. In the material world, to be dependent on the mercy of someone else is the utmost sign of misfortune. Normally, that would be a misfortune that we are totally dependent on somebody else. But in the case of our transcendental relation with the Lord, it is a most fortunate case when we can live completely dependent on Him. So spirituality is always opposite to material life. The material disease is due to thinking of becoming independent of everything. But the cruel material nature does not allow us to become independent. The forced attempt to become independent of the stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement of experimental knowledge. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. Beginning from Ravan, so here's some examples. Beginning from Ravan, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven. Down to the present age, they are trying to overcome the laws of nature. They are trying to now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on Him. So when we totally surrender to the Lord, that's our best position to be in. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, but at the same time depend completely on the Lord. The Pandavas were the ideal executors of this standard of civilization, or executors of this standard civilization. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Shri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. They were all highly qualified both by personal character and by physical activity. It's not like they weren't doing anything and just left everything to the Lord. They did what they could, and what they couldn't do, they totally relied on Krishna. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is therefore to become dependent on the will of the Lord instead of becoming forcefully independent in the material world. Those who try to become forcefully independent of the world, independent of the Lord, are called anath, or without any guardian. Whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called sanath, or those having someone to protect them. Therefore, we must try to be sanath, so that we can always be protected from the unfavorable condition of material existence. By the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. The Bhagavad-Gita therefore directs us to 7.19 that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva Dev is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto Him completely. that is a sign of a Mahatma. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, and there's not many of them. All the members of the Panda family are Mahatmas in household life. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the head of these Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti Devi was the mother. The lessons of the Bhagavad-Gita and the Purans, specifically the Bhagavat Puran, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandavas, Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. And as we will see later on, when the Pandavas find that Krishna has left, they wasted no time. It's time for us to go as well. For them, separation from Lord was just like separation of a fish from water. Srimati Kunti Devi therefore felt such separation like a thunderbolt. Yeah, they've just become so attached to Krishna that they just cannot accept a life without his presence. And the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. So that was one danger was there, that they might retaliate, they might be looking for revenge attacks, and they would have to deal with Ashwatthama, who was still attacking after the war. So the danger that many more may come. But they'll have to deal with it. Krishna is there, a super soul in the heart with everyone. But he does have to go back to his own kingdom, and they'll have to deal with this. But Krishna arranges everything. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into the condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition. And the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. So we accept everything. Krishna protects his devotees, but whatever happens, we accept it as the will of the Lord for purification or rectification. That's the best thing to happen for us, is for advancement, burning of karma, which again is like purification, rectification. So you just accept it that this is whatever Krishna does. He only does the best, whether it seems like that or not, but he only does the best for us. Okay, so if you have anything to add on that. So it's mentioned that when Kunti says that, do you desire to leave us today? And Krishna, it's mentioned that Krishna says, I have work at the Dwarka. Obviously messages were coming again and again that you are required back, you needed back in Dwarka, please come back, because Krishna had been there for a while, please come back. And Kunti's Mata says, all your works are accomplished automatically. So, he doesn't have to be physically present for his tasks to be done. So, Kunti Mata is presenting her desire for Krishna to stay, to keep receiving his mercy, especially now that the dangers have increased with the family members of the kings we have killed. Right, and Srila Prabhupada explains that our disease is that we want to become independent using material advancement. Anyway, I think we've discussed that already. So this is another example. Like Hanuman said, if Krishna so desires, we can become like an arrow and take off by the bow string of the holy name. Launch me in the direction you desire. Humility does not mean thinking low of yourself, but thinking the Lord is higher than yourself. That's all. So we can be like an arrow, and Krishna can launch us. The holy name can launch us in the direction that Krishna wants us to go. So we have to be the instrument for the Lord. that's something that was added on. Okay. And finally, verse 38. Kevayam nam rupabhyam yadubi saha pandava bhavato darshanam yarhi rishikanam ivashituhu ya. Kehua vayam we nam rupabhyam, without fame and ability, yadubi with the yadus, saha along with pandavaha and the pandavas, bhavataha yo, adarshanam absence, yarhi as if rishikanam of the senses, eva like ishi tuhu of the living being. As the name and fame of particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you don't look upon us, all our fame and activities along with the Pandavas and the Yadus will end at once. So Kunti Mata is saying that you like our soul, without you, we like dead body, and everything be finished without you. Kunti Devi is quite aware that the existence of the Pandava is due to Shri Krishna only. The Pandavas are undoubtedly well established in name and fame and are guided by the great King Yudhishthira, who is morality personified, and the Yadus are undoubtedly great allies. But without the guidance of Lord Krishna, all of them are non-entities, as much as the senses of the body are useless without the guidance of the consciousness. So Krishna is the main impetus. No one should be proud of his prestige, power and fame without being guided by the favor of the Supreme Lord. The living beings are always dependent, and the ultimate dependable object is the Lord himself. We may therefore invent by advancement of material knowledge all sorts of counteracting material resources, but without being guided by the Lord, such inventions end in fiasco, however strong and stout the reactionary elements may be. And just to see what Prabhupada says. So Krishna says that Bhima and Arjuna are powerful, the king is Dharma personified, and the Yadavs are your friends. You have no worries. So Lord Krishna is assuring Mata that you have very powerful sons, and Dharma personified is your son also, and we are also your friends. So you have backup, you have everything. Your sons are great, and you have great backup, so you have nothing to worry about. But it's mentioned that without Krishna, all things are useless. Even like Arjuna couldn't do anything when Krishna had left. He couldn't even fight ordinary cowboys. When he had fought big wars with Krishna. We are designed to be dependent, so we are trying to be independent is unnatural. That's one thing we remember, that we want to be independent. This is what we try to do. From the spiritual world, we want to be independent, but it's not a natural position for us. It's unnatural. The highest level of dependence is on Krishna. So we depend on many things, but the highest level is Krishna himself. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, he was totally dependent on the Lord. We need the ultimate dependable object, which is the Mahamantra for us. In this age, our dependable object is the Mahamantra. We rely on that. The Lord has incarnated as this mantra in this yuga. So we rely on the Mahamantra. So trying to be independent ends in fiasco. This said, even the Lord could not. Okay, this mention of even the Lord could not sink the Titanic, but they were so proud of their invention, but even that sank. So we can never say that even the Lord can do anything, and if something's meant to be, it will be. It doesn't matter how intelligence and how much technology we have, we still we cannot guarantee anything. Guarantee is only in the hands of the Lord, in the hands of Lord Krishna, and we use the Mahamantra as our protection and our guide when we chant the Mahamantra with the right consciousness of humility, of in the mood of a servant, then the Mahamantra, the Lord, it guides us in the right direction. So thank you so much, and let's see if you like to add something. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. It's what's time. Hina Mataji, would you like to add something?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Happy Ekadashi, everyone. Thank you for the class. Some very nice points that I've noted down, starting with verse 35 about how our purpose is to serve the Lord, that we are part of Him. That's our function, and that we're not independent. But unfortunately, under illusion, we serve our senses falsely rather than the Lord. But we are fortunate that the principles of devotional service have been made available to us on this path, and so which is a great blessing. We can only see the Lord in terms of who He really is through doing devotional service. So as you mentioned, Prabhu, hearing being quite very, very prominent, and then chanting, remembering the Lord, etc. And then I also noted down for verse 37 about how in this material world there's obviously this misconception that we are independent. People seem to think that we are completely free, but actually we are bound by the laws of material nature, the three gunas, our karma. So our goal should be to become dependent on the Lord, the complete opposite of what normal materialistic society believes, which actually frees us from being bound to this material world. It releases us from the circle of birth and death. So, we should be dependent on the Lord. We should share our problems with Him. We should trust Him that whatever outcomes He sends our way and whatever happens is the best. As He knows the best, Krishna knows the best, and He's always acting in our best interests, regardless of whatever that outcome is. He can see the bigger picture. We can't see the bigger picture. But we should still make efforts ourselves to take action, but the results obviously are in His hands, and we should accept whatever He sends our way. That was it, really. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhakti. Very nicely explained. Yes, we accept it. We just pray that, that whatever happens does not affect our bhakti, because that's what we want to do. Just like the gopis of Vrindavan, that's all they wanted, that they didn't care about themselves. All they wanted was more bhakti. That was their reason for doing bhakti, so they can have more bhakti, they can serve Krishna more. And Krishna, like, he's like bewildered that what do I do here, because these people don't want anything. They just want my bhakti. And how do I repay something like that? And they don't ask for anything for themselves, they only ask for me. So yeah, thank you, Mataji. Kiran Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Happy Ekadashi. Just to say, I'm always bewildered by the depths and the contents of even a few verses. A few minutes is never sufficient to try and unpack the seams of gold that are imparted to us on a daily basis. And it just goes to show that, it's clearly identified that we need to be mindful that we are constitutionally designed to serve. Just as our mouths serve us for food and for the use of the tongue, usually in the wrong places, but then, all have a purpose. But it's about finding that, these are constitutionally there to serve a purpose for our own development, growth, and survival. And equally, we are designed to serve the divine. And at least we forget that, because we want to lord it over nature. We want to go into realms of outer space, which takes thousands and hundreds of years or eons. And it is transgressing the laws of nature. Scientists are trying to find the elixir of immortality and youth. But in this Kali Yuga, at best, 100, 110, unless you're a Sikh marathon man who can live to 114, but sadly even get knocked over by a truck, not even a natural death. And so, you can see that we want to lord it over nature, but leave it to the divine will. But even in that performing of that dependency on Krishna, there are things we have to perform. Remember that there are 9 arms of bhakti. There are 9 types of bhakti. Hearing is the first part. And the Pandavas, Arjun heard from Krishna. And this was the first example of being taught to humanity. Look, I have something to reveal to you. Take it or leave it, but it's good for you. Right. And so Arjun listened and heard the words of Krishna, and these were for his benefit. Duryodhana chose not to, because his drasti, his vision, was all distorted. He was in it for material gains, for power, as was his father. How are my sons doing? Are they winning the war? There was very little morality in this for Duryodhana and the rest of his clan. But Arjun and the rest of the Pandavas were driven by a higher principle. They chose to serve Krishna. He only wanted Krishna, whereas Duryodhana wanted the army. And so hence it just goes to show that thing was said in these 5 verses, that we have a duty to be devoted and to serve the divine. That is our constitutional position. And this will be the thing that will help us to escape this cycle of birth, death, and disease and old age. It's because we've forgotten at the time of death that who is the absolute truth. And hence we are either born as a deer or some other flora or fauna, or we come back because it's still unfinished business. And therefore, it is incumbent upon us to have that vision that is asked of us through the Bhagavatam, through the Gita, through the CC. Develop and change that vision so that you see Krishna first and foremost. Even those who died on the battlefield, they were liberated because their vision was of Krishna. And hence, these are such important lessons for us, that the remembrance of the divine, the bhakti and the devotion that goes with it are part of the service that is required. It is essential that we take great efforts to do the things in our daily activities so that we engage in things in our lives, starting with food, prasadam. We eat with careful consideration. I mean, especially today, because it's Ekadashi, so this will be well prepared today, and it should be well prepared every day. And hence, those things are absolutely vital that our engage in the material world in terms of our work, our engagement with others, have that sense of service mode where we are doing, okay, we are helping humanity. Hands that help are holier than lips that pray. And hence, helping humanity is the ultimate purpose of our day-to-day activities, because we have been put on this earth for a purpose. We have to put 8 hours in to do something to empower, enlighten, and progress humanity. Progress is judged in different ways. Progress, not just by your own growth, but how you progress and succeed in developing others. And hence, like we are together this morning, we're progressing and trying to elevate the hearts and minds of our brothers and sisters. Things happen for a good reason, positive or negative. This is all part of the divine will. And be mindful that this is a game of snakes and ladders. We will have good qualities and negative qualities. King Yudhishthira was the king of Dharma. He still had some negative flaws. He did like a little bit of dice games. And hence we have flaws in our lives, but it's trying to eradicate those flaws. And Ajmela was a monk, a mendicant, but his vision was disturbed by the tinkle bells and his lusty desires. And there was an important verse that was said here, that there are people who will come and listen to the words of Shastra and Krishna. There will be those who are interested in Krishna's Leela with the gopis. What is their intention and motivation? Because if you read the Krishna book, there are parts of it which are quite salacious. But your vision has to be pure to overcome, because I'm sure that's been put down. Just as you enter a temple, there are carvings and drawings and everything which you're meant to leave your negative thoughts and your lusty desires outside before you enter to do darshan of the divine. And these are just magical words that come out on a day-to-day basis, because we have to transform ourselves for the highest dharma, and that is to serve the divine in the way we are trying hardest to do. Because to become a Mahatma is not just for the people like Mahatma Gandhi. Even I think that term was wrongly conferred, but that's a personal position. But it is an effort to become a Mahatma like Yudhishthira was. And hence the journey is for us to develop the union with Atma and the Paratma to become a Mahatma, to have divinity and connection with Atmaram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, very nice. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, I think the bottom line is that we have to recognize that we are really just a little speck. Our ego is so big, right? But that's all we are. We're just a lot of big ego, but we are just a little speck, and we don't make the laws. We're not in charge of making the laws. We don't have the energies like Krishna has. We don't have his 6 opulences, but yet our mind is such a bad thing. It can expand things, and we can become the bigger than the biggest in our head. But then his pride has a fall, and we soon find out that we're not as big as we thought. But then sometimes it's too late to find that out. So I think we just have to really remember that we are just a small speck, or one of the unlimited specks of Krishna, a small part and parcel, and we should not try to be the whole. That's the best position for us, and that is the best position, and that position is is the right place to be for every speck. So thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna,
Let
everyone.
me just.
She's listening only.
Oh, it's okay, totally.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Happy Kamika Ekadashi to all of you. My pranams to all of you. Yes, we have to have perfect hearing, and the hearing will become perfect gradually. And sorry, all of the processes will become perfect gradually when the hearing is perfect. So that is the key. So we have to be attentive in our hearing, especially in the Shastras. We can ignore other departments, or we can ignore we might not be very attentive in hearing what others are saying to you in this world, but hearing what is the message of the Lord has to be very, very clear and with rapt attention. This is what has been told in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And also, Kunti Mata is asking for not just association for dependence and for attachment to Krishna. So in this material world, it's totally opposite. So that's why bhakti seems difficult to the jivas, because what they're used to in this material world, the demands of the bhakti are totally opposite. And we hear how the devotees are so much dependent on Krishna, even if they have got all the resources. We have heard about the big kings, the emperors, like Maharaj Khatwanga. He went to fight for the demigods. Was it him, isn't it? Yeah. And then when he was told a moment is left, he just left everything. He just went to help them, and then he knew what his purpose is. So that's the kind of one-pointed, purposefulness you should have in your life. And the name and fame and everything, it's all going to be left behind here. Like I said, like this, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So everything is going to be nothing for us. All we're going to carry is the Lord's bhakti with us. And Kunti Maharani is very much aware of this, and she feels the same thing, that they were all being left as dead entities behind, as Krishna was planning to leave, or was actually leaving in front of their eyes. He wanted to leave for Dwaraka. So bhakti is so much important. Bhakti is paramount, and we have to just remind ourselves every day when we wake up and every night when we sleep, and hopefully we will make progression in the days and the moments we have in our lives. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So we've done up to
38.
So Kunti Mata is appealing for more association of Krishna, is wanting to leave, and the rest of the verses are also connected with this, and we'll do them on Wednesday, and then we'll have a look at the whole thing on Friday. So thank you so much, and thank you for your wonderful input. We'll catch up again on Wednesday.
Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai,
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Gaura Premanande
Hari
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 Haribol.